What's up, everybody? I'm Alan Seslowsky, and thanks for tuning back into Roster Watch. Each week, this video will provide you with movement up and down the Roster Watch Dynasty rankings. Those rankings will live exclusively on DynastyDepot.com, a new partner of Roster Watch. We will highlight players who have gained and lost value recently, tracking these player value trends, assist Dynasty players in identifying opportunities to improve their rosters as the landscape of the trade market is ever-changing. This weekly video will highlight players who have had significant movement up and down the board. It is important to keep in mind that slight movements inside the top 50 players is just as significant as large movements up and down the board outside of the top 50. The higher a player is ranked, the more significant it is when they change ranking. The first player is Lamar Jackson, the quarterback on the Baltimore Ravens. Age 24, rising up the Dynasty rankings. His previous rank was quarterback 9. His updated ranking is quarterback 6. After a 2019 MVP season from Lamar Jackson, he was widely considered the consensus top 2 quarterback in most Dynasty startup drafts. In the FFPC Superflex contest, experienced players even took him at number 1 overall at times. His historic season last year was good enough reason to be optimistic about the young QB's league-winning upside. Jackson not only boasted a 36-6 touchdown to interception ratio as a passer, he was also a top 6 running back on his rushing stats alone. Even the regression police firmly cemented Jackson as a locked and loaded top 5 Superflex picks in Dynasty drafts. Drafters of Jackson were relatively disappointed in his first 2 months of 2020, where Jackson was hovering around the QB 10 mark. He wasn't the reason you were losing this year, but he certainly wasn't the reason that you were winning each week like he was in 2019. Those who were forced to be patient with him were pleasantly rewarded right when it mattered most. In the all-important fantasy week, starting in week 13, Jackson returned to his 2019 fantasy form, averaging over 30 fantasy points a game. His 30 fantasy point performance in the wildcard game this weekend, along with his first postseason victory, continues the positive momentum up our Dynasty rankings. We expect Jackson to have a first-round Superflex ADP in Dynasty drafts. The only QBs that Roster Watch would prefer to have over him right now are Pat Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, and Justin Herbert. Next, let's talk about Russell Wilson, the quarterback on the Seattle Seahawks, age 32, falling down the Dynasty rankings. His previous rank was quarterback 3. His updated ranking, quarterback 7. The laws of fantasy football physics dictate when one player moves up the rankings, another player must fall. Wilson has had a tale of two different seasons in 2020. We will preface this by stating that Roster Watch does not see a decline in Russell Wilson's performance from the first 2 months of 2020 until the end of the season. The ranking change for Wilson is based strictly on the offensive philosophy by the Seahawks. Russ was the QB3 in the first part of the season, weeks 1 through 9. And during that stretch run when you needed him most, weeks 10 through 16, Russell Wilson finished as the QB14 out of the top 12. His final season ranking was QB5, putting Dynasty drafters in an uncertain position, especially in Superflex formats. See, in one QB formats, there's always another option that you could take a little bit later on, but in Superflex, you're going to have to make a decision on Russell Wilson in the first round. Wilson is older than other players in the top 6, but at age 32, he still has plenty of peak football ahead of him. Roster Watch believes in his talent, his weapons, and his fantasy viability. The soft finish to 2020 is concerning enough to drop him out of the top 3 of Dynasty quarterbacks in startup drafts. The last player I want to talk to you about today is Cam Akers, the running back on the Los Angeles Rams. Age 21, rising up the Dynasty rankings, previous rank of RB16, current rank of running back 12. Cam Akers was a surprisingly polarizing fantasy rank coming into his rookie season. Akers was not included in that elite tier of prospects that included Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift, J.K. Dobbins, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. The consensus was that he belonged no higher than RB5 in the class. The first 2 months of the 2020 season, drafters of Akers were left uncomfortable as his games were filled with inactives and marginal usage. The Rams' backfield was mostly the dreaded committee of 3, unpredictable at best. Starting in week 12 of the 2020 season, the Rams committed to Akers, and he produced fantasy-relevant numbers from that point forward. Over the stretch run of games, Akers finished as the RB16, deeming him an every-week starter. At the young age of 21 years old, Cam Akers has a plausible path to a low-end RB1 for next season and for the next few seasons after that. His performance in the playoffs will undoubtedly put him squarely on the radar of Dynasty startup drafters in the 2021 season. Okay, RosterWatch Nation, that's it for today. Remember to like and subscribe to get notifications when we go live, and leave us a comment on the video. We will comment back. Until next time, goodbye.